بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا Muhammad ومن والاه. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome to Priming the Primer, preparing ourselves for the serious study of Usul al-Fiqh. Today we're going to talk about what are the different ingredients. Like if Usul al-Fiqh was, I'm going to imagine this. Imagine with me the cereal box. What are its ingredients? There's going to be some people, they just eat the cereal. They could care less what's in there. You can have some smart shoppers who look carefully at what they're consuming. You can have some people who actually are into nutrition and understand how these different ingredients work. And that's really where we want to get. Like in usul al-fiqh, you don't want to just like know, okay, al-amr, al-nahi, mutlaq, muqayyid. You want to know what they mean. That's why we have this other course here where I'm talking about what these things, what are the definitions, these important terms you need to know in usul al-fiqh. If you look on the YouTube channel or at Swiss, you will see this course. I'm actually giving you the most important ingredients, one of the macros that you need to know in usul al-fiqh. You can see here how we're trying to complement your experience here. So make sure you like, subscribe, and share, man. So we're going to talk about what are the ingredients of usul al-fiqh, and one of them is the classification speech. What are the objectives for this lesson or these series of lessons? Number one, you want to be able to define usul al-fiqh in its core three parts that I've talked about a lot vis-a-vis the definition of al-Baydawi, Qari Nasruddin al-Baydawi, in his famous book, al-Minhaj. You want to be able to identify those three core components as defined by him. List and describe the major ingredients of usul al-fiqh that Imam al-Haramain covers in this text. He doesn't cover all of them, but he covers, like you can say, that the important components or ingredients of usul al-fiqh. Distinguish between different classifications of speech based on structure and function. Explain how these classifications impact the understanding of religious text. If I do my job, you should be able to do this right here. This here may need some mentorship, and I believe in usul al-fiqh having like labs where you are sort of guided through this process. Vis-a-vis, if you think someone like Vygotsky as an educational theorist who believed in modeling, which actually is really the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to model things. So this may need a little bit of mentorship, and I maybe do some separate courses, clips to add to this section to help you kind of model how to do this. You want to be able to analyze Quranic verses and a hadith to identify different types of speech, right? Whether it's a noun, whether it's a verb, and so on. Apply knowledge of speech classifications to understand textual nuance. Compare and contrast the various categories of speech with proper examples. Explain the relationship between speech types and legal rulings. Ahkam. Demonstrate how understanding speech forms is essential for proper legal derivation. Imagine, this is just a primer to a primer class. Imagine now the sloppiness, the lack of rigor that's happening on social media when people are talking about rulings, talking about ahkam, talking about this. If you were to ask them these questions, they would probably have absolutely zero, if very little knowledge, especially the content providers, not those who've gone and studied or put in the work. And, you know, as you can see, this is a very serious thing. Let's talk first about the essential components of usul al-fiqh as far as a definition, and we've talked about this a lot. Ma'rifatu dalail al-fiqh ijmalan wa kayfiyat istifadati minha wa hal mustafid. Understanding usul al-fiqh requires comprehending three essential components. First, what constitutes an evidence of fiqh. Second, how to properly utilize that evidence. And third, who is qualified to interpret and apply those evidences. When we talk about how to utilize, it also means like which one takes priority, which one takes priority over the other, and so on and so forth. These three components of usul al-fiqh, I had them here for you, so it's like super clear. You'll find it linked on the YouTube page as well. At Swiss, we put this into your assignments that you'll see under the course section that you can do on your own, bidnillah. The three components of usul al-fiqh, the sources of fiqh evidence, you should put fiqh here. So what constitutes valid evidence in Islamic law? Number two, the method, kayfi, like kayfa haluk, kayfi al-istifad, how to benefit from them, how to properly utilize and derive rulings from evidence for benefit. principles of interpretation, and so on and so forth. How do you resolve conflict between evidences? 3 qualifications of the mujtahid or the faqih or the mufti or the non-scholar. So this actually, if you think about it, is not really from Usul al-Fiqh. I don't want to get into this now. But as Imam al-Suki mentions in Jawami', this is dhayru hadha al-ilm. Like this is the tail that has to follow this. Okay? This threefold understanding explains why the term usul in Arabic is plural, as it encompasses multiple foundational principles rather than a single concept. It's not aslu fiqh, it's usulu fiqh. So once again, I keep hitting this, and there's a reason I keep repeating it over and over again. You want to know this well. The 3 components of usulu fiqh's definition. Ma'rifatul dala'il. So I need to know, what are the evidences of fiqh? That's part of that box of ingredients. Number 2 is method of derivation. How do we employ these evidences for benefit? That involves a lot of axioms, for example, a lot of principles and compliancy issues to make sure I'm using the evidence correctly. Most people don't have a problem with this. Everyone can tell you Quran and Hadith. This is where people, this separates the scholar or the learned from the unlearned. And I can honestly tell you, when I listen to someone, within 20 to 30 minutes, depending on the topic, if they've studied this in Arabic or English, whatever. And then finally, the qualifications of the mujtahid. We'll talk more next time, bi'idhnillah, about the branches of Usul al-Fiqh, but I want this really to hit home and to resonate with you. Barakallahu feekum wa sallallahu wa sallam ala sayyidina Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum.